Am I the jerk for yelling at my mother, sister, and father for a comment they made over my dress at a family wedding? Posted by you/prestigious_ticket62. This is so stupid. For context, I, 41F, have always been a chesty woman. Since I was 13, I have been a DT cup. PCOS will do that to you. It comes with hormone changes, weight gain, and rapid growth of facial hair during puberty. After discovering an ovarian cyst the size of a softball, which was removed, I went from being flat-chested to looking like an adult film star in just a few months. I couldn't help that I developed so quickly. Anyway, my mother and father thought they could try to hide it with turtlenecks and baggy clothes. While other teens were wearing cute outfits, I looked like a wannabe nun, covered from head to toe to hide my body. As I grew up, it got worse. When I was asked to dances, my parents would buy me dresses that covered me from neck to toes. I swear my claustrophobia was at an all-time high living in that house. Because of this, I also developed depression, so at that point, I didn't care what I looked like and ate a lot to cope with everything going on in my life and mind. I gained a lot of weight, and of course, that was just another thing for my parents to complain about. Fast forward to now, I'm all grown up and living on my own. For the past 20 years, I have worked on myself and my mental health to the point where I lost 182 pounds. I went from a size 26 to a size 10 to 12, depending on the style of clothing, and got my hormones in check. You'd think my family would be happy for me, right? Well, you'd be wrong. I was invited to my cousin's wedding a couple of months ago. I went out and bought a dress for the occasion because, why not? I never buy things for myself, and I wanted to feel good on this day. I bought a beautiful blush pink dress with a sweetheart neckline and 2/3 sleeves with a lace overlay on top. It was the prettiest thing ever and only showed a little bit of my upper chest. As soon as I walked into the venue, my mother and father waved me over to their seats so I could sit with them. As soon as I sat down, my father decided it would be the perfect time to tell me that while I looked nice, it would be better if I covered up with a wrap or something. I looked at my mother, and she was clutching her imaginary pearls, instantly agreeing with my father, like me showing an inch or two of my upper chest was the end of the world. I ignored them because I was raised better than to raise my voice in a church. After the ceremony, I walked away and didn't say a word. I congratulated my cousin and her husband on the way out, about to head to the reception. As soon as I got in my car with my boyfriend, I heard my phone blowing up with texts. I glanced at the screen and saw my father, mother, and even my sister texting me options of wraps I could borrow for the reception. I sighed and said I didn't need one because it was 84 degrees, and I was already sweating in what I had on. They all responded with, "Well, if you knew how to dress yourself, then we wouldn't have to help you." That's when I lost it. I texted back, "You all realize I am 41 years old and can dress myself, right? I know me being big-chested must be so bad for you, since I'm the one who has to live with them, and has lived with them for over 20 years. This is my body, and I will wear what I want, where I want. Stop trying to police my outfits. You beached and blamed me when I was heavier, and now that I feel good in my own skin, you want to tear me down more? I'm done. I will see you at the reception, and if any of you tries to cover me up to save face, I will not hesitate to cut you all off." I turned my phone off and had my boyfriend drive us to the reception. He was so proud of me for standing up to my parents. Once we got to the reception, my cousin and aunt pulled me aside and scolded me for sending my parents the message. I explained to them that my parents had been policing my clothing for decades, and I was done with it. I'm an adult, and I can decide what's appropriate and what's not. My aunt understood, but my cousin said she wasn't taking sides and wished I hadn't started drama on her day. I told my cousin that if she was so concerned with drama, then maybe she needed to go talk to my parents and tell them to stop telling people how I upset them. So, Reddit, was I the jerk here? Relevant comments. Commenter. I don't think you did anything wrong. The only thing different I would have done is not sit with them. I would keep our conversation short if you have to see your parents, but other than that, I would go low/no contact. But that's just me. Ops response. I've had low contact for 20 years since I moved out. I only see them on special occasions. Over the last few years, I've tried to reconnect, but it always ends the same way. So I stick to holidays, weddings, and funerals to interact. Commenter 2. How old are your parents? Ops response. They are in their 70s now. Op adds an edit to her post. Some people in the comments were shocked by the dress color choice. The theme was 2 shades of pink. Just envision the wedding scene from Steel Magnolias, a blush pink and a dusty rose shade of pink. To add, my aunt, who also had PCOS and was rather large-chested herself before getting a reduction, finally understood where I was coming from. My mother was even wearing the same shade of pink as I was. So, my cousin wasn't mad about the pink dress color, She was just upset that I had upset my parents and sister. Right now, I'm low to no contact with my cousin as well after her scolding. The only other person on my side who didn't see a problem with my outfit was my brother. For the rest of the reception, my brother and boyfriend were playing defense, keeping my parents and sister away from me. There's a whole other backstory behind why I have a strained relationship with my family, but I'll probably make an update on that at some point. I do want to discuss things with my family, I'm just not sure how to start. I don't know whether to go in guns blazing or to gently bring it up so they don't feel like I'm attacking them. I just want my voice to be heard. Update 2 days later. On Saturday, I contacted my brother and sister to talk about what happened a few months ago at the wedding. My sister was hesitant but agreed, and my brother was all in and said he'd be there. We met up at my sister's place and sat down. I started the conversation by saying that I love my family and would never insult them in any way, but for a 41-year-old woman to be reprimanded over a dress that wasn't even too revealing was ridiculous. My sister tried defending herself and my parents, but my brother put a stop to it right there. He mentioned all the times Mom, Dad, and she would always nitpick my outfits growing up, never allowing me the freedom to have my own personality or style. It wasn't about her, it was about me and how I feel. That shut her up, lol. All I wanted was for her to see how it feels for me, always being knocked down when I have something good going on in my life. Always feeling like a second-class citizen in the family. Never living up to their expectations. Not wanting to be the dutiful daughter anymore and wanting to make my own choices and live the life that I want. And that doesn't include covering myself up from the neck down. My boobs were no longer up for discussion. If they can't be happy that I am still willing to be a part of the family, then so be it. And that went for her as well. I laid it all out. If she can't support me against my parents, then I would have to cut her out too. I also mentioned how being cut out of Christmas because of my stunt at the wedding was uncalled for. I told her if she wants to side with Mom and Dad, that's fine, but I will no longer accept toxic behavior. We are all grown-ups and should act that way. No more involving people in family drama. She agreed. She said she would talk to Mom and Dad on my behalf because, as of right now, I am blocked by them. My brother, on the other hand, decided to be petty. He's planning a family Easter get-together and is going to invite everyone except my parents. He might go over there in the morning to see them and talk some sense into them, but he's not holding his breath on them realizing their mistakes. So, as of right now, I have both siblings on my side, but we'll see how long that lasts. If I have a blowout with my parents in the future, I will update. But as of right now, I guess this is all I can give. Second update 3 weeks later. I'm done with my parents. For real, I am done. I was hoping to have an update for you guys after Easter, but, well, it happened sooner than expected. I'm shaking while I write this, so, lovely potatoes, get the vodka shots, tea, or whatever you need to get through this drama with me. My parents have gone off the deep end. They are trying to convince me to move into a facility for mentally and physically disabled people. On top of the PCOS diagnosis I got at 13, I was also born with spina bifida. I didn't mention it in my previous post because I didn't think it was relevant, but apparently, it is. They came over to my apartment yesterday under the guise of wanting to work things out from the wedding 8 months ago. It went about as well as you'd expect. They acknowledged that what they asked of me at the wedding was out of line, and I thought that was the end of it. But nope. Towards the end of their visit, they pulled out some documents for me to read. On top was a form to make them my medical proxy, and in the event of their deaths, my sister would become my medical proxy. When I flipped the page to read more of the document, I saw a pamphlet for a group home facility tucked neatly in the middle. I picked up the pamphlet and read it out loud to them. They looked at me, expecting me to agree right away. They forget I am no longer their dutiful daughter. I chuckled and flung the pamphlet across the table. How dare they? I was so angry. I told them to take their paperwork and leave. They looked as though I had stabbed them in the back repeatedly. They tried explaining to me that once they were gone, I wouldn't have anyone to take care of me. I told them I have my boyfriend of 5 years and my brother and sister if I ever needed help. I don't need a facility. I've been living on my own for 20 years. I don't need help. I've done a pretty good job of living on my own and doing things for myself. I pay my bills on time and have never once been evicted. The only medical emergency I've had in the last 20 years was when I had a gallbladder attack and called 911. They just kept saying, "We are looking out for you." Then, how long do you expect your boyfriend to stay once he realizes how much it takes to take care of you? They downplayed my relationship like it was just a phase in my life. To be clear, it is not a phase. He asked me to move in with him at the end of April, which my parents have no idea about because, well, we haven't been on speaking terms for 8 months. I told them firmly to leave or I would call the cops on them for trespassing. They were no longer my parents and needed to leave immediately. My mom was crying, and my dad looked like he wanted to bury me 8 feet under my floor. They left without another word but left the paperwork on my table. In a fit of rage, I tore up the papers and threw them in the trash. I was blaring music and throwing things into boxes when my brother and sister came into my apartment. I guess they got frantic calls from our parents, saying I had lost my mind and that they were afraid I might do something stupid. I guess my parents didn't shut my front door all the way, so when my siblings showed up and heard the music blaring, they honestly thought I was doing something dumb. I didn't see them coming in, so when I noticed my brother and sister standing at my bedroom door, I screamed like a banshee and threw a book at my brother's head, lol. After realizing it was just my siblings, I walked over to them and hugged them both tightly. After the hugs, my brother asked me what was wrong. Without any words, I walked over to the trash can, pulled out the paperwork I had thrown away, and showed him. The first words spoken were from my sister. She said she knew they were controlling, but this was a whole new level. My brother, ever the rock to us siblings, who I will refer to as Zeus, turned me towards him and told me, "We will fight this together." What started as a debate over a damn dress had now escalated into this disaster. My sister, who I will call Athena, stood strong beside me, giving me reassuring shoulder squeezes. My brother advised me to speak to a lawyer, just in case my parents escalated things by sending the cops or adult protective services to my home. I wouldn't be worried if I didn't think my parents were capable, but I'm not so sure anymore. Athena, in the meantime, told me to get all my medical records updated to show that my spina bifida hasn't worsened to a significant degree. We also came up with a plan to have my therapist write a note stating that I am of sound mind and not a risk to myself or others. My siblings also advised me to move in with my boyfriend sooner than planned. So, the plan is to move in this weekend. To say my boyfriend was pissed is an understatement, not about me moving in with him sooner, but about what my parents tried to pull. I had to spend 30 minutes on the phone with him to keep him from going on a rampage. He was furious when I mentioned how my parents described our relationship. I could tell he was on the verge of exploding. He also gave me an idea, to get an IQ test done so I can prove I'm not as disabled as my parents will try to claim in order to put me into a facility. After a few hours of making lists of everything I needed to get in order, my brother decided it would be best if he stayed the night to protect me in case officials showed up at my door. And to everyone wondering, my brother is no longer inviting my parents to Easter at his house. As of this morning, he and I have both cut our parents off. He had a long, drawn-out conversation with them on speaker so I could hear when he confronted them about what they did to me. Let's just say my parents think they are in the right and that I just don't understand their concerns. I understand completely. They want me to be locked away so they can portray the perfect image, which I apparently do not fit into. As for my sister, I'm not asking her to cut our parents off, that will be her decision, but I am no longer comfortable being in their presence. As of now, I am still invited to Easter with my brother, his kids, and maybe some cousins, aunts, and uncles. But it's still up in the air if I will attend, because knowing my parents, they will most likely crash the party and make a scene. Relevant comments. Op explains why she thinks her parents did what they did. They are losing their grip on me. They were used to me bending to their will in all things because I was shy and not confident at all. But after going to therapy, I realized that I need to make decisions for myself and stand up to bullies. Over the past 10 years, I've come into my own confidence and no longer deal with bullies. That is why they've pulled similar things in the past that I overlooked and just laughed off, not taking them seriously, but now I know better. Commenter. Your parents are absolutely awful human beings. Wait for them to start screaming about grandparents' rights and kicking your door down if you ever decide to have kids. Don't let your sister or your parents know where you live. Op's response. I thankfully have no children. God forbid, if I did, they would try anything to have them taken away, claiming I'm an unfit parent. But I would never do what they are currently doing to me. I'm happy to be the wild, hippie auntie to my sisters and brothers' kids. Commenter 2. Someone needs to ask them who they'll call for help when they need it in their older years. Their older years aren't that far off, to be honest. They have already alienated 2 of their 3 children. Op's response. They think my sister will still be around. They barely acknowledge my brother's kids and spoil the crap out of my sister's kids. But I have a feeling she will no longer deal with them either.